I ain't got no hurricane safety tips now. Well, Skeleton got, and together we can weather the storm. So, check this. Prepare for power outages. Charge devices before a storm strikes. Develop a plan in the event that electricity goes. Learn where and how to shut off your home's electricity. Ensure that there are no trees in the lines near you. If you are experiencing low voltage, turn off the main switch in your home. Do not touch wet appliances. You feel only Nima can give safety tips? Well, Skelec can too. So be sure to stay tuned to Skelec's Facebook page and website for updates about the outages and restoration. For emergencies, our contact numbers are 465-2013, 661-2013, and 600. I repeat, 465-2013, 661-2013, and 600. Remember, with Skelec's hurricane safety tips, together we can weather the storm.
Reliable and responsible. Skelec is here for you. Powering our community.
It's your rate, your call at Republic Bank.
This rate is great.
Republic.
This rate is affordable.
Bank.
This rate is what I need.
Republic Bank.
Real options for real financial goals. Build, expand, go for the dreams at the rate you want.
This rate is perfect.
Republic.
This rate is for me.
Your rate, your call. Log on to republicbank.ec.com for more.
From the heart of ZIZ Radio comes a political talk show like no other. The Edge, with host Devonne Cornelius giving you his take on the biggest stories happening in governance today. Got something to say? Let's hear it. Give us a call at 869-465-2555, Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. One solid hour of in-depth analysis of the machinery that makes our country tick. The Edge, cutting into the matters at hand.
The views and opinions expressed by participants and callers during this program are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation, its management, or sponsors. The station accepts no responsibility for statements made. And welcome to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm your host, Devonne Cornelius, and thank you for joining me in the program for today, Wednesday, July 9th, 2025. It is 7 minutes past the 11 o'clock hour. Let me apologize for the late start, but we'll get into our conversation for today. When we open the phone lines, you may call us at 465-1977 or 1903, or our cell number, which is 662-8674. And this conversation is also being viewed live on our, on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube, as well as ZIZ TV channel 5. Let me also greet those of you who are listening from other parts of the world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. And thank you for tuning into today's edition of The Edge. I'm Devonne Cornelius, and I look forward to having a fruitful conversation with you. Of course, hearing from you when we open the phone lines very shortly. For those of you who were able to listen to the program yesterday, my colleague and I, Ebony Brandon, we took a dive into Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew's national address on Monday evening, and that address focused on the Sustainable Island State Agenda and the SEED and CISA agendas, which are being pursued by the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, and they are in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. And we heard about major infrastructural projects, the desalination plant nearing completion to address chronic water issues in the country, particularly in Bastia, the long-awaited rebuilding of the Bastia High School to be completed by 2027, and significant roadworks like the St. Peter's Corridor expansion aiming to ease traffic congestion and drive economic activity here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Now, on the healthcare front, as Prime Minister Drew serves as Minister of Health, he announced that the country's first public MRI machine coming to JNF and the start of works for a brand new general hospital with modern climate-smart facilities. In terms of energy, geothermal exploration is advancing there on the island of Nevis, promising cleaner and cheaper electricity. And I think we drove the point home as to why geothermal is the way, clean, renewable energy is the way. And we have a solar battery storage system is projected to supply more than 30% of electricity needs by late 2026. He also highlighted food security initiatives such as the Tabasco Prepper Project, the upcoming seafood processing plant, and ambitions to cut the food import bill by 25% by 2027. On digital transformation, which is big here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and there are other countries across the CARICOM and the OECS which are really tapping into this area. We have the rollout of the national EID system is set for 2026 to ease public service access, along with the government e-payments platform to make transactions simpler and faster. And so you're talking about the ease of doing business in St. Kitts and Nevis that is expected to be improved significantly when we're talking about digital transformation. There is no way in 2025 we are not as advanced as we could be or should be on the digital front. And these are things that we need to embrace and take very seriously. For youth development, scholarship pipelines are opening to Southern University. That university and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis entered a partnership, I believe, was in 2023 or 2024. And so far, I believe more than 10 students have taken advantage of that opportunity. So that is Southern University in the United States and technical schools in Germany. Two young men from St. Kitts and Nevis, one from St. Kitts and the other from Nevis, will be traveling, or they're probably there already, but I think it's sometime this week, traveling to Germany for about maybe 2 years for technical training. And that is a partnership between Germany and St. Kitts and Nevis. And these opportunities in terms of Southern University and the technical schools in Germany, they come alongside new training programs in EV maintenance, cybersecurity, and upcoming solar PV installation certification. Recently, we had a conversation here on the program with Dr. Wayne Archibald, and he spoke about the work that he has been doing with the government of St. Kitts and Nevis as it relates to EV maintenance. We're seeing where a number of EV or electric vehicles are coming into St. Kitts and Nevis because these are the vehicles that have been made now. And so instead of us entertaining the conversation of rejecting these vehicles and going back to what we know, why don't we entertain the conversation of getting our mechanics and getting our young people adequately trained and properly trained to maintain these vehicles. That is a conversation, and that is the direction that I believe we are to go. And so that is actively happening, and it is something that I think is really good when you go to other islands throughout the region and other countries worldwide. This is where people are going, electric vehicles or hybrid vehicles. And we're talking about vehicles that are energy efficient and things that are more climate friendly. And so getting our people trained where they would now be able to utilize or put to work their skills not only in St. Kitts and Nevis or across the OECS or CARICOM, but further afield. And so imagine people being trained here, and they can now travel to the UK or to Canada or to Europe, to Germany and these different places, and train others and also apply their trade. In the economic sphere, the minimum wage increased to $12.50 per hour, coupled with VAT reductions and the Budget Boost Wallet program, were positioned as key measures to put money back into people's pockets and boost household stability. Now, the Budget Boost Wallet in particular, I think, achieved its goal in terms of assisting people with day-to-day needs, essential items. In the middle of the program, about 2 or 3 months in, we were hearing figures of about $4 million already being spent at the grocery stores, and we're seeing where people were paying their bills, water, electricity, NHC, NHLDC. And so instead of putting direct cash into people's accounts, the monies were deposited to a JAD platform, a digital platform, and you go to the supermarket or to the vendor, and you scan your phone, and it was very seamless, very, very seamless. Of course, the conversation came about, encouraging or becoming a welfare state where the expectation is that you are always going to get a handout from the government, or you're always going to get some sort of sustenance or allowance or whatever. And this is not me at all being completely foreign or completely blind to the fact that there are people within our society who are struggling and who need that extra help, or who need a helping hand, or whatever. And there's some people who are literally on the brink of poverty. I'm not ignorant to that fact, because it is the reality. But as I have said before and will continue to say, social assistance programs should be for those who absolutely need it, and not for those who want it, but for those who have a genuine need, for those who really can't do without the social assistance. In any country where you go, social assistance programs are norm. They are the norm. It is expected that you are going to have social assistance programs because you're going to have people who are in need of that type of assistance. But it should not be the case where you just give to people and then people treat it as, it's free money, or it is my money, and these kind of things and so on. But I think the program was a good one in terms of you see where the gaps are, you see where people need assistance, and I am hoping that the data derived from this program could be used and studied so we could really understand, what are the trends and what is happening here in St. Kitts and Nevis. When you look at the minimum wage, it is the highest in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. But we must also ask the question, is this going to be eat up by inflation? Because inflation is real. And a lot of what happens on the international scene, the US tariffs and the war and these different things, it affects small island developing states more than we think. It affects us more than we think. And so that is also a conversation that the government must have in terms of whether the inflation is going to eat up this increase to $12.50, but nevertheless, it is still important for us to recognize that in the last, I think, a year or two, the minimum wage has jumped from $360 to $500 a week. That is significant. Tourism, as it relates to tourism, we've had more than 750,000 cruise passengers and a record-breaking 8,000 plus visitors for the St. Kitts Music Festival, signaling strong sector recovery and expansion. No need for me to go back into detail about the St. Kitts Music Festival, safe and except to say that it continues to grow and it continues to attract people to St. Kitts and Nevis. So when you put all of it together, the Prime Minister gave a picture of progress and a picture of optimism, with him basically saying that his administration is goal-oriented, or action-oriented rather. But of course, people will continue to have questions, and rightly so, because we still have a responsibility to hold our government, to hold our elected representatives responsible, because they have been elected to govern, and they have been elected to come up with the policies and the plans and the programs to improve the lives of the people who call St. Kitts and Nevis home. And so, how do we as a society balance celebrating what's working while still at the same time asking or demanding for accountability and so on? Because we have a responsibility to that. It is 11:21 and you are listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll open up the phone lines to hear from you. Again, call us at 465-1977 or 1903 or at 662-8674. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Want to get away? The Nuwali Beach Resort is calling your name. Whether you're dreaming of a romantic escape, a family adventure, or a peaceful retreat, Uwali has it all. Relax in comfort, enjoy fresh local and international cuisine, and soak up the sun on the best beach in Nevis. Take advantage of our staycation special, exclusively for citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. Ready to book? Call us at 469-9735 or 662-9735. Email reservations@uwalibeach.com. And don't forget to use promo code ZIZ. Your escape starts now.
Join us every Wednesday for In Focus, a weekly talk show produced by the St. Kitts Nevis Information Service, where we provide exclusives with key persons within the government and discuss pertinent, relevant, and interesting matters that affect us all. Tune in every Wednesday, live on ZIZ Radio and streamed live on Facebook at SKNIS Media and ZIZ Online. In Focus, your government, your business.
back to the Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. We'll head to the phone lines and begin taking these calls. Hello, caller, you're on the air. Okay, we'll answer that one. Any more callers there? No? All right, the phone lines remain open. Call us at... All right, we have a caller. Good morning, caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Devonne.
Yes, good morning. How are you doing?
Dear listeners. I just want to clear up something that you mentioned. Yes, practically every country has safety net for the most vulnerable of its citizens, okay, as they should. But the point that I was making yesterday was that 22,000 people getting some form of government assistance is not sustainable. And if we're talking about a sustainable island state, we're supposed to be decreasing that number.
I agree.
Okay? Yeah, that's the point I was making. And I think your guest then said something about, well, all governments in the OECS are the biggest employer. The fact is, we, at the St. Kitts and Nevis, employ a large portion of our workforce in the OECS, largest portion of our workforce in government in the OECS. That is not a good statistic, because what it suggests is that there is not enough private sector investment and not enough jobs outside there in the private sector. And so government has to be doing this again, having this large payroll, and you know what normally comes with that. Okay? That's the point I was making in the fact that was concerned.
But to add to what you're saying, right? I don't know for other islands, but I can say for St. Kitts and Nevis, the rhetoric over the years, or what I've been getting from people, is that it has now become the norm that everybody has to get a government job. You know, everybody wants to work for the government, and if you don't work for the government, then or if you don't get a government job, you use that as a metric to judge the administration and their performance because they didn't hire me. You understand where I'm coming from?
Well, the thing is, if you're going to use that as a metric, it is that metric should be decreasing, right? Not staying as it is or increasing. We do not want that much of a government intervention in the economy. Okay, because basically what I'm saying is, in fact, you're heading towards a welfare state, and not just a welfare state, a state control is pretty much of the economy. And I don't think that's the modern way to go. Right? So in the distant past, when there was competition between, let's say, capitalism and socialism and communism and so on. Okay? But I don't think in a modern state that is the way to go. The emphasis should be on the sector, on people creating their own businesses, having their own businesses, as opposed to government controlling the economy. It's far too much, right? And I don't think that there's enough emphasis on trying to reduce that metric. Okay, it's almost as if it's a given that government is going to always be the biggest employer, and I don't think that talking about sustainability, that is a good way to go for sustainability. Another thing that I noticed that was not mentioned, the whole sustainability question, was the impact of governance, because you can't have a sustainable island state if your governance systems are not working properly. I don't think any mention was made of governance systems, because if you have, no matter how thriving an economy is, if it's riddled with things like corruption, lack of transparency, not enough openness in government, the oversight systems don't work, we will always have problems. Okay? And it would be like bleeding the economy of it, the lifeblood of bleeding the lifeblood out of the economy. So I think that was something that was overlooked. It has bedeviled us in the past. Because if you look at a lot of the problems that we've gotten into throughout since independence, most of it was because of governance issues, you know. Right? If we had good governance, if we had good oversight mechanism, if things like corruption and cronyism and favoritism and all those kinds of things, if things were done fairly and properly, we would have been much more advanced. Right, and we would not have been stalled in some respect, and better decisions overall would have been made. We always say, well, with all that money coming in from the CBI, we should have been in a much better state, and that is because there was not enough openness and transparency in the decision making of what to do with that money, and so a lot of it went into waste. Okay.
All right, caller. Let's take this break, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation here on The Edge. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I'm Devonne Cornelius, and thank you for joining me in the program for today. The phone lines are open. Call us at 465-1977 or 1903 or at 662-8674. The phone lines are open, and we want to hear from you, your take on what we've discussed. But I wanted to follow up with the caller, the last caller. And my question was, along the lines of becoming a wealthier state and balancing social safety nets, and the point that he made about having 22,000 people in a social program or a social safety net is not sustainable. And I understand the point that he has made. I mean, while having social safety programs is not foreign to any country, having a large amount of people on a social safety program is not sustainable. Is not sustainable. However, how do you balance? Before I ask that question, let me say this. So we've heard over the years that politicians have to or need to give the people what they want. You know, knowing what is best for the people, but also giving them what they want because of the politics. So how do you balance a situation where the people may be saying that, look, we want more of this budget boost wallet, or we want more of the social safety program, but then you compare that to, why? This ain't really sustainable. Having 20,000+ people on a social safety program ain't really sustainable. Are we saying that all of these people are on the brink of poverty? You know, these are conversations that need to happen. And these are conversations that we should not shy away from. But it cannot be the norm. It cannot be the norm that you expect, or you know whether you are in need or not, going to get some sort of allowance or assistance from the government. Because then for me, you lose that sense of independence, because you tell yourself, I don't really have to work as hard to try to make up for an extra $500 or for an extra $1,000 or whatever the case is, because I know that I am going to receive X amount of money from the government. That is not sustainable. However, this is not me saying that the budget boost wallet should not have been introduced, because we also have to remember that as small island developing states, we are very susceptible to inflation. Of course, inflation affects everybody. But as a small island, the ordinary man was going to feel it in the pocket. And so you're talking about being able to afford food for your household, being able to pay your electricity, your water, and day-to-day needs in order for you to survive. And so they saw where that was the gap, that was the issue. And they're hoping that coming out of this 6-month program, that people were able to save. And so if in a household you have 5 people receiving the budget boost wallet, that is $250, so that's $1,250 there, then you should have been saving, that household should have been saving $1,250 per month. If 5 persons in that household were receiving the $215 per month, they should have been saving $1,250 per month, which could have been used for something else, which could have been directed at some other need. And so over that 6-month period, that household that has 5 individuals receiving the budget boost wallet should have saved $7,500. And let's say you have the household, the 5 people, and let's say you have on average 500 homes in St. Kitts and Nevis with 5 persons are receiving the jab, then you're talking about what, $3.7 million being saved. When you look at the economic from an economic standpoint, that's about $3.7 million right there. You know? And so it was designed to cushion the impact. Food, electricity, water, other essential items, but it also served as an opportunity for you to save. And I made the point a few months ago that the reality is, if that money had gone directly into our pockets, directly into our bank accounts, it probably would not have been used for essential services. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, me again. I just wondered, you said it was intended for saving. I thought it was intended to alleviate the impact.
So let me clarify my point, if I may, right? So what I'm saying is, if a household of 5, each person in that household got $250 per month, then $1,250 should have been saved per month, because you're no longer using your $250, but you're using the $250 from the JAD. So that extra $250 or $1,250 could have gone to something else. Or in other words, you have that cash flow of $1,250. Think about it like a debt consolidation or something like that, you know?
Okay.
Now, I hope you understand the point that I'm making.
Okay. Because you see, remember that first of all, there was no means testing as such, right? There would have been some who needed it, and there would have been, because remember the threshold was, I think, $5,000.
Yes.
A month.
Yes.
Right?
Hello.
Then, depending on the circumstances, you may or may not have needed it, right? I don't know what the bills might have been. But the fact is, if there's no means testing, what that means is that some people who should have got it didn't get it. The pensioners, it did not include pensioners, And secondly, some people who got it really didn't need it. There was that element that I don't think was considered. The second thing is that it has a cost attached to it. It isn't free money, right? I think it was $40 million or something like that was mentioned.
30 million.
6 months?
No, 30 million.
30?
Yeah, 30,
okay, 30
specifically
million.
for the program.
I am not sure that was the best way. If government had 30 million, that was the best way to actually spend it.
How so?
Okay? And, that's debatable, right? Because there are obviously other things that need attention, other government services that would have could do well with that money. And the third thing is, when you work out that money for 6 months as opposed to, let's say, an end-of-year bonus, right? I don't know. I'm not sure what the figures might work out to be, but it's quite possible that end-of-year bonus might have been better. And in any case, I would have thought that the best time for people to be getting that money is in the period, the 6 months period that includes the dull season for tourism. Okay, because then I think is when people might be short most of all, not when we're right in the middle of the tourist season. Okay, so if it was intended to stay as well and help, I think the 6 months should have been adjusted to probably April to whatever the other 6 months 6 months period come in. Right? That to me that would have made more sense. But overall, it was a good program. No question about it, and popular. Anytime somebody gets money, I guess it will be popular. But I think a little more thought should have gone into it, and like I said, compare that to, let's say, a dividend at the end of the year, that when people generally tend to spend more anyway, that would really have been a boost to not just the wallet, but the economy as well. Okay? Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution to the program. The phone lines remain open at 465-1977 or 465-1903 or 662-8674. Call us and lend your voice to the conversation at hand. Now, I'm going to say something that is not going to be very popular. And I probably might get some licks for it. But I'm going to say it. Because I have to be true to myself. And I have to be honest here. And this is with regards to the budget boost wallet. Now, it ran for 6 months and it assisted some 20,000 or 22,000 people, $30 million. Now, I'm not going to argue whether every single person within that 20,000 or 22,000 block were on the brink of poverty and whether they definitely need it. But I'll say this, I don't think the program should continue for another 6 months for 22,000 people. There is no way that can be sustainable. Perhaps it is, but I just can't see it. So I am not in support of the program continuing for another 6 months for 20,000+ people. Perhaps what needs to happen is whether it be the Ministry of Sustainable Development or whichever ministry is responsible, they go back to the drawing board and they look at the data and you begin to narrow it down to determine who are the most vulnerable, But of course, there is going to be an issue because people would view it as, well, it is my money, so why are you giving it to Cupid but you're not giving it to Devonne? Why you're giving it to GQ but you're not giving it to this person, So that has become an issue as well. It is not popular, but I have to say it. Because we don't want to become a welfare state where we feel as though every month or every now and then we get some free money from the government. And then when we get that free money, we use that as a metric to say, well, the government has performed tremendously well because they gave me $1,000 or they gave me $500. I mean, the reality is sometimes people measure performance based off of direct benefits, They do that. But it should not be a case where you are using that to measure the performance of any administration where, you got some sort of social assistance or you got some sort of quote-unquote free money. But judge the performance of any administration based off of the investment in things like healthcare, education, housing and infrastructure, agriculture, and of course tourism, which is one of the economic drivers of our economy. The phone lines are open and we are taking your calls here on The Edge. We have about 10 minutes left, so we can take just a few calls to hear from our listeners, their take on the conversation at hand. Call us at 465-1977 or 1903 or at 662-8674. Let's head back to the phone lines and we'll take this call. Caller, you're on the air. Good morning. Hello, caller. Good morning. Hello. Hello, caller. Yes. Could you speak up a bit, please? I'm not hearing you clearly.
Something that works good. Could you hear me now?
Just a little bit. Could you speak up some more, please?
What you just say, true. So you must remember, when a government is, they want people to them back, so they give them all kind of things. So that you just say, give it them. See you.
All right. I want to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll wrap up the program. Welcome back to the Edge on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. We'll head back to the phone lines and take some calls at 465-1977 or 1903 662-8674. It is 11:52 and we are winding down the conversation here on the Edge. But for those of you who just tuned in, it is a continuation of Tuesday's discussion on the national address made by the Prime Minister, and it was a progress report on St. Kitts and Nevis's sustainable island state agenda, and focus on seed. And in the Prime Minister's address, there's a recap. He focused on a number of critical areas, major infrastructural projects, healthcare, energy, agriculture and food security initiatives, digital transformation. I'll stick a pin. We have a caller. Good morning. You're on the air. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. You hearing me?
Yes, good morning. I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Okay, good. And that program, that program was a very, very good program. A lot of people benefit from it. I myself benefit from it. And I really, really will real appreciate of it. Many more outside here, real appreciate of the program. In terms of extending the program, I don't believe it would have been a wise idea, as much as I need it. But I don't believe, because what would eventually happen is that people will reach a point where that's all they would want to rely on. I don't believe it is a wise idea, because, for instance, I could give you a simple example. Look at the PAP, I'm not the PAP program, where the PEP program. Now, there are people right here in St. Kitts who have been on the PEP program for over 10 years. And it cannot be right. Mm-hmm. The PEP program was designed for a particular time, then you get a job, then you move out of this, and then somebody else come in and the whole thing. Look at how dirty this same PEP program gets. Just imagine you running a business, I give you 2 PEP workers. And the government now is pleading to you. Pay for one and I will pay for one. And nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
We reach to a point where everybody wants things free. And they're making profit off of it. I believe the time has come. But the government needs to take a serious stand on this tech program. But it's either you tax those people with those business a little more or something because they are robbing the country. Just imagine you running a business. You're making money out of the business off a government expense. That can't be right. So I'm saying with the JAD program, the JAD program was a very good program. And two, I believe the purpose too, why the JAD program came on this scene too.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the former Prime Minister said, he was in government, he would have paid a double salary. Okay? When you look now, the same people who are not working for government have a lot of things to say. The views, you should have paid the double salary. The Prime Minister now understands the feeling of all of us. He said, you know what? We're going to give you a JAD at 250 for 6 months. I know some individual of a household, at the end of the JAD, you know how much money they're receiving all? Over $10,000. Well, come on. Over $10,000 and they are not working for government. So the point I am making is that the government, this government understands the life of others and work out, I am going to give everybody a 250, except those the pensioners and those who are working for over $5,000. And today, people now are asking for the same job to continue because it was a very good help. So I just want to take this time out to thank the government for the 250. I thank you.
All right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to the program. You have been listening to The Edge here on ZIZ Radio 96.1 FM. I've been your host, Devonne Cornelius. Until next time, continue to stay safe. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Coming up at noon is our midday newscast. See you tomorrow, same time, same station. Stay tuned.